Aufpassen, Granate raus! Granate ist raus, Kämpfer runter!
Troops, I Saw Bear here. Today, we'll be talking about Update 41 for Foxhole. This update features a pair of new vehicles for both factions, as well as several new bridge models scattered across the world, and a feature that was promised about 1 year ago that's finally made it in. Let's kick things off with the bridges. There are now 3 additional types of bridges that have replaced a lot of the older bridges in Foxhole. There's the double bridge, which is, as it says, a double-width bridge so that vehicles can drive on both lanes, bypassing each other instead of bumping into each other, unless you're one of those chaotic evil freaks and just drive right up the center. You've got the 2-tier bridge, which has about enough space for 1 vehicle plus maybe a bicycle, but there are infantry paths on either side, so infantry can still use this bridge at the same time as vehicles. And then there are the long bridges. These are dual-width bridges, but they are for covering the extra long segments along ocean inlets. There's one of these around Tuatha Watchpost in Endless Shore. That's certainly one that a lot of people will probably think of first. The old bridges are still in the game, the smaller single-lane ones, but there's not very many of them left. Either way, this should change up a lot of bridge stalemate and combat. I'm especially looking forward to those 2-tier bridges myself. Next up, we have the feature that was promised a year ago. Hey Tanky, come here for a second. Do you mind if I test something out? Just stand real still. Carrying live wounded troopers. You are now able to carry wounded players who are still active on their character to safety, so that you can patch them up or let them die in a less hazardous area. While you're carrying this wounded soldier, the wounded timer is paused, effectively prolonging how long you have to save them. Note that the ability to hold someone's wounds in has been removed in favor of this carrying mechanic. Although, if you ask me personally, I'd really like to have both. Another new feature is the addition of map layers. This is more something for the developers to worry about, but it does make starting new wars and changing the layouts between wars a lot easier for them. Essentially, there are some predefined layouts to towns, so between wars, the town layouts can be changed pretty rapidly instead of painstakingly hand-placed and handcrafted every single war, which may also lead to more variety in the future, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Alright, time for the vehicles. The UV-5C Odyssey is a colonial light utility vehicle variant. This has a crew of 2, a driver and a commander. The commander has a hatch on top so that he can gather intel with his binoculars. However, the vehicle itself provides some map intelligence. It has 7 slots, and it's extra durable. If a commander's going to be seated inside, you want to make sure he stays relatively safe, of course. The second colonial vehicle is the R-5B Sisyphus Hauler. It's a truck variant. It's got modified wheels and suspension, and has improved overall handling. It can still fit 6 troops, and has 14 inventory slots. The real selling point here is the boost. It has a short boost period, which you can activate by holding the shift key. Think of this as a blockade runner. If you really need to get somewhere and there's a lot of enemies between you and there, gotta rely on speed. Next up, for the Wardens, is the Balfour Wolfhound 40mm. This is a field cannon. As with any class of field weapons, it has 2 slots for crews, fires 40mm rounds, or light tank rounds, and has 35-meter range. However, it's pretty early in the research tree, so this will be an early anti-armor option for the Wardens going forward. And lastly, and this one's going to be interesting, the Drummond Lascan 55C. This is an LUV variant that is amphibious. It has a crew of 4, No primary armaments, but it can travel short distances over water. You'll have to be careful though. Driving it through water causes it to use up more fuel than if you were driving it on roads. If you run out of fuel in the water, you'll be left adrift, and it won't be fun. That being said, if you need something more substantial than a motorboat, use this instead. And hey, once you get to the other side of the river, you can keep driving it. Now that's pretty cool. Tank combat has significantly changed with just a few minor tweaks, but this will be really big for armor pushes later on. And this all revolves around armor penetration bonuses. Now, the 40mm, 68mm, and 75mm rounds have bonuses when hitting tank armor. But it's not just numbers that have changed, it's also the positioning. Now, more direct shots, orthogonal shots, have a higher chance to penetrate side and rear armor. So this really encourages the idea that you're supposed to be flanking, and you'll get easier kills that way if you do so. Additionally, closer shots have a much higher chance to penetrate side or rear armor. So now the ideal position if you want to kill the enemy tank in a 1v1 fight is to flank, close the distance, and shoot him right in the sides or the rear on a purposely perpendicular shot. This should hopefully encourage tanks to commit to fights rather than getting ready to fall back every 5 seconds. If you want the kill, you have to go in for it. Alright, that's it for the vehicles. What else has changed? The map. In Heartlands, much of the bulwark has been repositioned towards the north of the map, cutting through Baronstown to the west and encompassing Greenfield Orchard in the east. Baronstown has actually been renamed the Breach, and this carries over into Umbral Wildwood as well. Much of the bulwark has been rerouted to the west and north of the map, following along the Great March to the west side of the gap. Golden Root Ranch has been converted into a relic base. Thunderfoot is back, and is now a town with a seaport. Thunder Row Relic Base has been retired. Endless Shore. The north entrance to Saltbrook Channel has been narrowed into a mountainous passage to make it a little bit more defendable. An extra set of ramps have been added to the south entrance of Saltbrook Channel as well. In Faranac, a new entrance has been added to the north side of Jade Cove. In Godscroft, the easternmost landmass, including Prometheans, has been relocated to the center of the map, replacing the Central Island Crossroads. The resource field on Thieves' Den has now been removed. Curse that place, I've gotten stuck there before and it sucked. Fisherman's Row, factory and construction yard have been moved from Blackwell to Three Sisters, and the storage depot has been added to Blackwell instead. In Lockmore, a seaport has been added to Fairmore. In Callahan's Passage, a seaport has been added to Lochin Berth. In Marban Hollow, a seaport has been added to Marban Hollow. What? Okay. Well, I mean, that was in the patch notes. I can't debate with that, right? And in Morton County, beaches have been added along the coast to make landings actually doable. Some gameplay changes include Silver Hands can now have both their turrets disabled separately. Advanced ammunition factories have been removed from Foxhole. The items that were previously produced in them have now just been moved to the factories. Player gravity animations have changed, meaning that when you fall down a cliff, you'll fall a lot faster, and it looks less floaty. Some game balances include the Silverhand Mark IV. 68mm gun range has been reduced from 40 to 35. RPG shells' chance to penetrate tank armor has been significantly increased. Sticky bombs' chance to penetrate anti-tank armor has also been significantly increased. AT mine damage has increased by 50% to account for the tank buffs. High explosive grenade explosion radius has been reduced by 50%, but the high explosive grenade crate size has been reduced from 30 down to 25 as well. The Colonial Argonaut has had its inventory increased to 7. The Dune Landrunner and Leatherbacks have both respectively had their inventory sizes increased to 14. All tanks disable threshold has been reduced from 50 down to 30% health. All tank damage bonuses to the side have been reduced by 33%. All tank damage bonuses to the side have been reduced by 33%. All tank repair costs have been increased by 15%. The Offensive War Achievement requirement has been reduced from 70 down to 65%. The Fortified War Achievement requirement has changed from 3 to 4 days. And all light tank classes, for the tank changes, now move faster and are more maneuverable to really push the idea that they should be flanking.
Attention! Attention! We've got some late-breaking developments. These notes and game balances were added in after I recorded the initial batch. So, here we go.
The HHD Peltast, the mortar half-track, has had its cost increase from 55 to 70 refined materials. The Niska Mark I gun motor carriage, or the anti-tank half-track, has had its cost reduced from 75 down to 60. The Niska Mark II blinder off-road speed has increased. The H-10 Pelicus, the sniper tank, and the Silverhand Mark IV reverse speed has been reduced slightly. Some other changes include Intel text chat channels and tabs have been added, so hopefully you'll be passing on a lot of useful intel here. Network replication algorithm has been improved, so there is reduced pop-in and chance of objects going from far away not being rendered. So like bullets, sniper rifle rounds specifically, hopefully. Field anti-tank variants now animate when aiming. And Vivox SDK has been updated, which hopefully fixes some bugs for the voice chat. There were some bug fixes, speaking of which, with this update, but I'll leave that for the patch notes down below. This really does change the game for infantry and armor alike. New bridges and new tank combat mechanics. Can't wait to see how they play out in the field. And as always, if you like what you saw in this update video, like, subscribe, and share this with all the infantry and armor grease monkeys out there. And as always, good luck, keep your heads down, and stay in your foxholes. Bear out.